Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I rise, under 8 to 4 to raise a motion, 4 and 7, to raise a motion on urgent need for the House to authorize the issuance of warrant of arrest against any person or head of organization that failed to appear or honor invitations to investigative hearings before any committee of the House of Representatives. Mr. Speaker, I so move. Issuance of warrant of arrest against any person or head of organization that failed to appear or honor invitations to investigate hearings before any committee of the House of Representatives. The House knows the precarious economic situation Nigeria currently finds herself, heightened by the global economic recession, driven in part by the coronavirus pandemic and the unfortunate crash in international oil prices. The House further knows that the current price of crude oil in the international market is below $29 per barrel, approximately 50% down from the budgetary projection of $57 per barrel. Concerned at the continued dependence on oil revenue to fund the programs and projects of government is not sustainable, and worried that existing corporate tax revenue leakages are hindering the diversification of the nation's revenue base. The House observed huge revenue leakages over $30 billion attributable to corporations who systematically evade the remittance of their appropriate taxes, despite public declarations of exorbitant revenues and profits. The House, at its sitting on 5th March 2020, acting in line with the provisions of Section 62, 88, and 89 of the Constitution, empowered via a resolution its committees on finance, banking, and currency, with assistance from banking and currencies, with assistance from other relevant government agencies, to conduct in-depth investigative hearings into all incidences of corporate tax revenue leakages. The sole objective of these investigations, honorable colleagues, by the House is to ensure that Nigeria's tax regime remains fair and competitive, and expected tax revenue paid by any organization and or individual is paid appropriately and accordingly into the government treasury. The Committee of Finance, Banking and Currency, in furtherance of its obligations as directed by the House, issued letters of invitations to various corporations to submit documents of their full compliance with the laws of the Federation. The House is amazed that some of these corporations, particularly the telecom operators, under the agencies of Incorporated Trustees of Association of Licensed Telecommunications Operators of Nigeria, upon the receipt of letters of invitation, chose instead to file cases in court. The House notes a judgment in favor of National Assembly was delivered on the 13th of March 2020 by Her Lordship, BFM Iyako J, which reiterated that National Assembly is empowered by sections 88, 89 of the Constitution to invite any persons for investigative purposes. The House is aware that the 30 billion tax revenue leakage is based solely on documented evidence. This is not fishing expedition or an attempt to harass any law-abiding entities. Complying with our letters of invitation will afford any persons or organizations the opportunity to challenge any false allegations. The House resolves to invoke sections 89(1)(d) and 2 of the Nigerian Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, which states entirely, I quote, to issue a warrant to compel the attendance of any person who, after having been summoned to attend, fails, refuses, or neglects to do so, and does not excuse such failure, refusal, or neglect to satisfaction of the House or the committee in question, and to order him to pay all costs which may have been occasioned in compelling his attendance, or by reason of his failure, refusal, or neglect to obey summons, and also to impose such fines as may be prescribed by any failure, refusal, or neglect, and any fine so imposed shall be recoverable in the same manner as a fine imposed by a court of law. End of quote. 89.2, Mr. Speaker, I quote, it says, a summons or warrant issued under this section may be served or executed by any member of the Nigerian Police Force or by any person authorized in that behalf by the President of the Senate or Mr. Speaker of the House of Representatives as the case may require. The committee hereby seeks an amendment of the Company Income Tax Bill currently awaiting assent to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to insert any company or persons indicted by National Assembly that fails or refuses to pay or remit statutory revenue returns to the federal government through the appropriate quarters should have its directors criminally prosecuted for violation of our tax laws, barred from further business operations in the country, and the company blacklisted and delisted from the Register of the Corporate Affairs Commission. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I so move.
Motion.
Your name is Linda Ikpeazu.
On the 5th of March, passed a resolution authorizing the two committees of Finance, Banking, and Currency to investigate a motion which was brought to the floor on the over $30 billion revenue leakage. In the attempt, of course, to have the views of the organizations that are alleged to be responsible, we wrote letters to those companies, and some of them, of course, came up as an association, especially the telecom industries, the telecom operators. They came up to say they file a case in court, which, of course, was done last in the 8th Assembly. And on the 13th of March, Mr. Speaker, the court delivered judgment in favor of the National Assembly to the effect that the House or National Assembly has power to invite anybody for investigative purpose. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the Nigeria that we are today deserves critical actions at this critical time. Majority of these companies, Mr. Speaker, have been evading taxes by turning their books over and over again, taking loans, foreign loans, for example. I'll give you some critical examples, Mr. Speaker. There is a particular company, Mr. Speaker, that operates 100% in Nigeria, but only have 10% of its annual income being taxed here in Nigeria, because the other 90% is based in Mauritius. And this company only have a representative office in Nigeria. What it means, Mr. Speaker, is that 90% run into billions of dollars, which are taken to Mauritius, do not enjoy any tax, it's not taxed by FRS or even the government of Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, we have companies who took loan overseas in foreign currency called equipment loan. These equipments, ordinarily under the FRX regime, if it was brought in, we give them a capital allowance to reduce the value of the tax or the turnover and the value of the tax they are going to pay to Nigeria. But on one hand, they took the loan in foreign currency, brought it into Nigeria, and the next day, it was credited to a foreign country, to their shareholders in foreign country. It was credited. They took the loan, about $90 million, Mr. Speaker, let me be precise. The money came to his account, to the company's account, and the next day it was transferred to a shareholder in Mauritius. What does it mean, Mr. Speaker? They then bring it in for record purpose, so that they could take the capital allowance certificates from the bank and seek tax relief from FRS. On the other hand, they apply for Forex from CBN to also pay this loan thereby depleting our forex, the money that was not used in Nigeria. And thirdly, Mr. Speaker, the equipment that was supposed to be brought in and duty paid, custom duties paid, were not brought in. These are the skeletons in their cupboards that they don't want the house to expose. And so by going to court, they seek to prolong and delay the activities of the National Assembly. If we allow this to continue, then we have no business assisting Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, there are so many infractions, and by the time we have the details of their infractions, running to billions of dollars, and we are saying, look, these details that we have, we don't want to believe it until you submit your own documents. Rather than being free to submit their documents and defend the documents before us, they felt that the best way is to stop proceedings by approaching the courts. Of course, the Constitution of the country empowers us, Mr. Speaker, sections 88 and 89, to invite anybody under the sun, even Mr. President. If we need him to answer to questions, he will be invited, and I'm sure he will honor us. How much more Nigerians who are making monies and billions of naira in Nigeria, refusing or don't want to honor the invitations of the National Assembly? Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I think it is time to shake the table. I so move. Thank you, sir.
Those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it.